Have you ever noticed how an in-law's visit can turn into an Olympic event of who can blame whom the fastest? Picture this. A couple, we'll call them Jack and Jill, are anxiously preparing for the arrival of their in-laws. Now they've got everything under control, or so they think. They've cleaned the house top to bottom, stocked the fridge with all their in-laws' favorite foods, even made sure their dog, Sparky, is freshly bathed and sporting a new collar. They've left no stone unturned because, you see, they've been down this road before. Once they got blamed for the weather outside being too cold. Yes, you heard right, the weather. As if they had control over Mother Nature. But hey, when it comes to in-laws, it's a whole different ballgame. And just when they thought they were prepared for everything, the in-laws arrived. As soon as the in-laws step in, the blame game commences. It's like a tennis match, but instead of a ball, it's blame that's being tossed around. Imagine this. The in-laws walk into the living room, and the TV's volume is a tad bit too high. Like a hawk eyeing its prey, the father-in-law swoops in with a comment. You know, in my day, we didn't need to shatter the windows to hear the news. The mother-in-law chimes in. Yes, it's like they're trying to wake the dead. And just like that, the TV volume becomes the first casualty of the blame game. Next, they move to the kitchen. The battlefield extends. The husband and wife have just brewed a fresh pot of coffee. The in-laws take a sip, and it's as if they've tasted liquid dynamite. The mother-in-law gasps. This coffee could strip paint off walls. The father-in-law adds, I've had milder rocket fuel. And there you have it. The blame for the strong coffee is served piping hot. Moving on, they settle onto the couch. It's a cloud-like, plush piece of furniture, but not for the in-laws. The father-in-law sinks in, and it's like he's fallen into a marshmallow pit. This couch is too soft. It's like sitting on a giant marshmallow. The mother-in-law agrees. Yes, it's like we've landed on a cotton candy cloud. So the blame for the couch being too soft is comfortably nestled in. In each of these scenarios, the couple is left bewildered, trying to figure out how they've become the villains in their own home. They're not just hosting their in-laws, they're also hosting a series of blames that seem to sprout out of nowhere. But remember, this isn't just a blame game. It's a comedic symphony where the in-laws are the conductors, and the couple, they're the orchestra trying to keep up with the rhythm. And the couple, well, they were just trying to keep up with the score. So, our couple decided to call a family meeting, or as they like to call it, the in-law intervention. You see, they thought, what better way to resolve their issues than to bring everyone together and let the chips fall where they may? They gathered around the antique oak dining table, a sense of tension, excitement, and a fair amount of trepidation in the air. The husband kicked off the meeting with a diplomatic, "We're all here because we care about each other." And then the wife chimed in with a less diplomatic, "And because we're tired of being blamed for everything." As the discussion progressed, things took a turn for the hilarious. Accusations began to fly across the table like a game of hot potato. The wife's mother blamed the husband's father for the dog gaining weight. "It's all those table scraps you keep feeding him," she exclaimed. The husband's father, not one to back down, retorted, "Well, at least I don't keep the heater on all day like you, causing global warming." The room erupted into laughter, and for a moment the tension was replaced by shared amusement. Then the husband's brother joined the fray, blaming the wife's sister for the local grocery store running out of his favorite cereal. "You bought them all last week, didn't you?" he accused, pointing a playful finger. The sister, rolling her eyes, shot back, "Oh, please, as if your obsession with cereal is the root of all our problems." The meeting continued in this vein, each accusation more ridiculous than the last. The session turned into a comedy of errors, a circus of blame, with everyone getting in on the act. It was chaos, it was madness, but most of all it was downright hilarious. At the end of the intervention, they were not sure if they had solved anything, but they did have a good laugh. And in the end, isn't laughter the best remedy for any family feud? Just when you thought things couldn't get any more ridiculous, they did. Picture this. The couple, tired of the never-ending blame game, suddenly has an epiphany. They decide to shift gears, to turn the tables on their relentless in-laws. The couple starts blaming the in-laws for the most random, insignificant, and downright hilarious things. Imagine the husband with a straight face, blaming his mother-in-law for the neighbor's cat that just won't stop yowling at 3 in the morning. "You know, if you hadn't given Mrs. Robinson that catnip for her feline, we'd all be getting a good night's sleep," he'd claim, his tone dead serious. And the wife, oh, the wife is not to be left behind in this new, ridiculous blame game. She'd accuse her father-in-law for the supermarket running out of her favorite chips. "I'm sure it's because you told Mr. Johnson, the store manager, how much I love those chips. Now everyone in town is buying them," she'd lament, shaking her head in faux disappointment. The couple doesn't stop there. They blame the in-laws for everything, from the weather to the traffic. "Did you have to mention how much you love rain, Mom? Now it's been pouring for days," the husband would grumble, and the wife would join in. "And Dad, every time you talk about your good old days without traffic, guess what? The roads are jam-packed." The sketch highlights the sheer absurdity of the blame game, painting a picture so ludicrous that one can't help but laugh. It's a mirror held up to the silliness of shifting blame, a reminder that sometimes it's not about who's right or who's wrong, but about how we choose to handle the situation. The couple's new strategy baffles the in-laws, leaving them speechless and for once without a comeback. The entire scenario is a testament to the timeless adage, "The best defense is a good offense." And so the blame game had a new champion. The grand finale of this absurd blame game was nothing short of a comedy blockbuster. Picture this: the couple and their in-laws all gathered around the table, finally realizing the absolute hilarity of their petty squabbles. Their faces, previously twisted with blame and frustration, now lit up with the realization of the silliness of their quarrels. They decided then and there to settle their differences. But how do you ask? Well, with a game of blame bingo, of course. Imagine the scene: a bingo board filled not with numbers, but with the most ludicrous, laughable blames you could think of. Suddenly, who ate the last cookie and who misplaced the TV remote became the subjects of this uproarious game. Each accusation was more absurd than the last, and before they knew it, the room was filled with laughter instead of arguments. The husband, eyeing a row of blames, couldn't help but chuckle as he called out, "Bingo! Who forgot to refill the ice tray?" The wife, in turn, laughed heartily, claiming her victory with the bizarre blame of, "Who left the toilet seat up?" The in-laws, too, joined in the fun, pointing fingers at each other over the ridiculous accusation of who finished the milk and put the empty carton back in the fridge. This grand finale was a symphony of laughter, a far cry from the earlier symphony of blame. The petty quarrels and finger-pointing were replaced with good-natured ribbing and shared enjoyment. It was a spectacle to behold, a comedy of errors turned into a comedy of reconciliation. In the end, everyone realized that blaming each other was no solution. The real culprit was not the in-laws, the husband, or the wife, but the inability to see the humor in their daily life. They found that laughter, not blame, was the best way to resolve their differences. But hey, at least they had a good laugh. Just when you thought the blame game was over, a new player entered the field. The stage is set, the players are ready, and the audience is on the edge of their seats. The in-laws, the husband, the wife, all have had their fair share of blaming each other. But wait, the plot thickens, and the real culprit is about to be revealed. Imagine this: a scene that could be straight out of a sitcom. The family is gathered around, each blaming the other. The tension is palpable. Suddenly the room falls silent. All eyes are drawn to the corner of the room. There, sitting innocently, is the family's pet dog. In his mouth, the missing TV remote. Around him, the missing cookies. And to top it all off, the noisy neighbor's cat is sitting right beside him, looking equally guilty. The dog, oblivious to the sudden attention, wagged his tail happily, knocking over a small tower of cookies he'd apparently been hoarding. The room erupted into laughter. The husband, wiping tears from his eyes, pointed at the dog. "So it was you all along." The wife, doubled over with laughter, managed to gasp, "And we thought our in-laws were the culprits." The in-laws, who had been so ready to blame each other, found themselves laughing along. The grandmother, chuckling heartily, said, "Well, it seems we were all barking up the wrong tree." The room filled with laughter once again. The dog, still blissfully unaware of his role in this family drama, continued to wag his tail and enjoy his stolen cookies. And the cat, well, the cat simply stretched, yawned, and sauntered off, leaving the family in fits of laughter. The entire family, once at odds with each other, found themselves united in laughter. The blame game, the quarrels, the tension, all faded away, replaced by the absurdity of the situation. The dog, the unsuspecting hero of this story, had managed to do what no one else could: bring the family together. In the midst of all the laughter, a valuable lesson was learned that day. The most dangerous thing in the world, the in-laws, realized that sometimes it's not about who's to blame, It's not about pointing fingers or holding grudges. It's about finding a way to laugh through it all, to appreciate the absurdities of life, and to love each other despite our differences. So, the next time you find yourself in the middle of a family quarrel, remember this story. Remember the dog, the cookies, and the laughter. Remember that sometimes the real culprit might just be under your nose. And most importantly, remember to laugh. And that's how the most dangerous thing in the world, the in-laws, realize that sometimes it's not about who's to blame, but about finding a way to laugh through it all.